Hello everybody, this is the Manjan coming out with a new video. So last time what we did was we left ourselves over on this for loop with the statement over here with the error message actually, which says we have zero constructor argument. So basically what we were trying to do is we had a slot x and y which basically defined where our slot started, which is over here, somewhere over here, which was I believe 12 over 253. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our inventory script and change this to 12 and 253 and hope that's right. It probably is. Oops, sorry. I'll just take this out. And now what we're going to do is if you go to our slot class, you can see that we have a constructor over here which takes a rectangle position. So that means that we need to give in a argument over here with a rectangle because it demands for one over here when you make a new slot. That's what it means. When you say new slot, it goes and execute this method over here. So that's what a constructor means. One of you was asking me. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new rectangle. And what we're going to do is first we're going to, our starting point is going to be slot X, slot Y. Slot X, slot Y. Oops, that's supposed to be a comma. And slot X and slot Y. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a width and height of each slot. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over here and check the width and height of each slot. What you're going to do is you're going to drag, just go to one of the slots. And so the width is 29. No, let's actually do it over here. The width is 29. And the height seems to be 30. Yep, let's take it to be 30. So let's say the width is 29 and height is 30 for now. The reason I'm not taking it from here is because we needed to have a no vertical distance, because if we have this over here and this over here, we have a distance of 3 over here, a gap of 3, which we don't want. We want it all to match up nicely, so we need a 29 and 30. Let's see if that works. We can change it if it doesn't. Oops, opening all these random pop-ups, sorry. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have if you didn't understand that, you'll understand later on. It's not that hard. So we're going to have a public width, which is 29, and public int height, which is 30. So we obviously, it makes sense we have width and height. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to put in width and height. But now the problem is, it's if we do this, it's always going to create a rectangle over here. It's going to create. Just create. Oh, 1 second. Okay, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to do plus width times x. So what this is going to do is it's going to loop, and for the first time it's going to put it on slot x, so it's going to put it on 0. The second time it's going to put it it's going to put it at 12 because it is 12 over here. And now the second time it's going to put it on 12 plus width times 1. So it's going to basically put it over, where is it? It's going to put it over here. And the third time it's going to put 12 plus width times 2, so it's going to go 1 width, 2 width, and it's going to put it over here. So as you can see, it's going to loop and go put it over here, here, and then it's going to jump to y and put it here. So here you're going to do the same thing, plus height times y. Now let's just actually check if you have any errors. don't. Now to check if it is actually drawing the slots correctly, we are going to actually draw this test image over here. So basically, before we do that, in our draw method which we have in our slots class, we need to send it the actual frames position. So basically we want to send the actual frames position, which is over here, and then from there it's going to go to 12,253 and then start drawing everything. Without this position over here, we cannot really do anything. So we're going to say int frame x, int frame y, and what we're going to do is we're going to say GUI.draw texture into a new position, sorry, new rectangle. And what we're going to do is the x is going to be frame x plus position.x, frame y plus, whoops, sorry about that, too many typos, position.y. So what this basically is doing is it's saying, okay, we're gonna get the frame x and add it to its position. So it's gonna get this frame, this coordinates over here on the inventory, and then it's going to go down and start drawing the slots according to its position. So now to actually test if this is working, we have to actually take this thing over here and draw this texture over here. So what we're gonna do is, for now, we're gonna just replace this with test, and we need to equate test to something. Let's make this static for now so we can actually access it from anywhere. So we're gonna go to inventory, we're gonna have a public, let's make a public texture 2D test. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here, and then after we initialize a new slot, I'm just gonna copy paste this slots x and y dot test, or why can't we? Oh, sorry, let's just say slot.test. Yeah, there we go. So you need to call it by the class name, which is capital S LOT. So say slot, capital S LOT, like the actual class name, dot test, and then it is equal to test. And you can actually do this once. I'll explain you why. So I've explained before that static means it is same for any object you create. So once you have set this to a value, the static variable to a value, any object can access that if you've done it once. So if it does not make sense, you guys can just put in the comments and I'll try to explain. So now that we have our test, we are drawing the texture, but before that we actually need a picture to test with. So let's just randomly put in this chest over here just to test. And this is just to test if you're drawing the rectangles in the right place. And as you can see, we're actually not drawing any. I have no clue why. I'll just come back and see why we're not doing it. Or yeah, actually I will need to, no, oh, okay, never mind, it does not actually draw it. So what we're gonna do is yeah, of course, sorry. So now when we have this draw method over here in our slot which draws this test, we actually need to call it. So we need to call each of these slots. We have, how many slots do we have? Slot width size, sorry. Yeah, 10 and 4. So we have 40 slots, as you can see, slot width size and slot height size. So we loop 10 times through the X and 4 times through the Y. So we have 40 slots. So we need to loop through each one of these slots and print the test texture over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just copy paste this loop, go on our onGUI, and where we said draw inventory, we're going to make a new method called void draw slots. So this is where we're going to draw our slots over there. And we don't need to do this because we've already initialized it, and we're just going to say slot xy dot we should make this public, guys, very important, because then we cannot access it from anywhere else. Draw. And remember, we need to give its frame a value, x and y, its frame x and y. We're going to say position.x dot y, and now we're actually drawing all the slots. And now we're going to call draw slots. So as you can see, first we draw the inventory, we draw the texture, and then we're drawing the slots. And we have errors. Let's make these floats, because just because it asks for its float over here. Hopefully there are no errors. Yep, because what happens is when you say position.x, it returns a float variable, and so that's why let's just make it float, so that just life becomes easier. Let's test if it works. Hopefully it does. Well, nope, it doesn't. I have no clue why. I will just come back with a solution. Okay, so now I really feel dumb. So basically, as you know, what we did over here is we set the x and y, the width and height of each slot, but we go over here and what do? We literally do nothing. So what we need to do is we need to set this position to the position we give. So now what we do is now we set the position of this of a slot to this position, this rectangle position. So yeah, that should work. And that is, I really feel dumb. Oh yeah, there we go, perfect. So as you can see, they draw the slots, they draw the chest on the slots, so that means that the rectangles are drawing, but it's still not perfect, as you can see. If you let me see if I can actually zoom in. Probably not. No, I can't zoom in. If you see carefully over here, there's actually a little gap at the end which we need to fill, and these are things that are very important. You need to see because it needs to fit in perfectly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna adjust it in such a way that each of these chests exactly fit in each slot, so it has to precisely fit in each slot, so we know that each position of each slot is accurately given. So I'm going to go off video and change these values, slot x, slot y, width and height, so that these chests can accordingly fit into the slots. Okay guys, so I just found out the values that fit perfect for me. So I thought 17 to 55 as x and y, y and width and height to be 29, 29. So for you guys to check, if you guys didn't resize the image and you have the same width and height over here, this should be the same. And second, I actually made a new, I made this thing over here, this image over here, which made it a little easier to check if it actually, to check if you're actually, to check your width and height. So I'll just put this on the link below. Oops, sorry, this one over here, so you guys can use it to check your width and height. So when I play this, as you can see, it perfectly fits in each one of these slots. So this is what I'm going to use. So this is basically to define the position of each slot. Okay, now once we have done that, now we need to work on it, actually fitting the items inside these slots. So for example, a chest can have can occupy 4 slots at a time. So that is what we have to work on. So first of all, we're just going to take up this test image over here because we don't need it anymore, and we're going to replace this by item.image, and we're going to remove this as well, and we're going to have this over here. Going to remove this, so everything should be as normal. Yep, so now the rectangles are actually drawing but without any texture. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have now we're gonna go to the real interesting stuff where we actually add atoms. Okay, so first we're going to have a public method called add item. So but before we add items, we need to fix this problem. 1 second. We're having a null pointer. I think it's because our item is, yeah, okay. So before we do anything, we need to check if item is not equal to null. So only if item is not equal to null, only then we're going to draw. Because if it is null, then it's going to give the exception. Okay. So now before we add items, we actually need items. So what we're gonna do is in our GUI we're gonna actually make a new component, and we're gonna call it items. So this is going to be a list of items that we're going to take from. This might seem a little weird, but I'll explain you guys. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here. We're gonna say public linked, not sorry. First of all, we're gonna go over here, put dot generics. So basically, this means that we are going to use. I think I've explained this before. Yeah, I did. It's fine. It basically allows you to use a list. So we're gonna put in a public list of item. We're gonna call it items. We're gonna call it armor, and we're gonna have different lists. And we're gonna have another public static list. Item armor. Well, we're gonna call this armor inspector. Now the reason we have to is when we put in static variables, we actually can't see them in the inspector. But when we have a public list item armor inspector only, then we can see it because it is where is it? System.serializable, which means that we can see the variables in the inspector. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a public. We're gonna have a start. Void start. I shouldn't have taken that out. We're gonna say just armor is equal to. This might seem a little dumb, but you guys will understand. Vector. Oh, that's why. So basically, I'll just show you why we're doing this. Okay. Why wouldn't it show up? That's weird. One second. Okay, there's an error. Never mind. Wait 1 second. I'll just be back, guys. Guys, sorry about that. Before we actually make this class items class, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our armor class and put in system.serializable in the square bracket above the class name, above the public class armor, and then we're gonna go back. We're gonna make a public list armor inspector, and public static list armor. So basically, we're gonna use this variable to set stuff over here. So let's say 2. So now we have 2 elements, and we can set their image, x, y, width, and height. And for now we'll have 1. And then what we're going to do is in the start we're going to have the static list equals this armor inspector. Now the reason it is static is because then we can access it from any of these classes. And because once it's static, we only need 1 list throughout the whole game. So this is basically the list of every armor in the game. So we're going to go over here. So this is the first armor. And we're going to go to our inventory. We're going to drag, whoopsie. We're going to see, I think this is going to take 4x4. Yeah, seems so. Let's try. We can just change it if we want to. I'm going to go over here. Going to drag it to our image. So this is basically our first item. So X and Y, we don't need to change it. That we will do when we add it. So this is the initial position. And remember, this is not in terms of pixels, but this is now in terms of slots. So if you put in 1, 1, this is going to go into slot number 0, 1, 1. This number is slot 1, 1. Usually slots, it'll start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's how it works. So when you say 1, 1, it means it's going to start over here. And when you say width and height, that is also in terms of slots. So if you say the width is 2 by 3, that means it is two slots in terms of width and 3 in terms of height. So now everything is in terms of slots, which makes it very easy. So this thing we're not going to change, and we're going to say for chess, we decided 2, 2. We can always change it afterwards if it looks very weird. Sorry about that, I just got a call. Okay, so back to where we were. So now that we have an item to use, we need to add this item. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to add items, and we need to make we're gonna give it an X and Y, so we know which X and Y we're gonna put it in. So now the way this is gonna work is we're gonna first go to the X and Y. So suppose it's 0, 1, 2, 3 and 0, 1. So if it is 3, 1, we're gonna go over here, and then we're gonna check if this is not occupied, and then we're gonna go and check if the adjacent cells are not occupied depending on the width and size. So for example, if the width is 2, we're going to check if this and this is not occupied, or if the width is 3, we're going to check if these 3 are not occupied. And the same thing with height. If it is 2, we're going to check if all these are not occupied. If it's 3, we're going to check if all these are not occupied. And if none of them are occupied, only then we will be allowed to put in the item. So that is how the algorithm is going to work, and let's get started. Okay. So first we're going to have an int X and Y to know which position you're going to put it in. Then you're going to have an item. So now remember, this item can be anything. It can be an armor. So because armor extends item, that means that armor is an item. So essentially you can put in an item, or you can have another class which is food, which extends item. So this could be a food, it could be an item. So that is the beauty of inheritance. So now we're going to go. So now first we're going to make a for loop to check if all the slots are occupied or not. And we're going to check that by, slots over here. So we have a bool occupied. We're going to go over here. We're going to go int, what are we going to call it? Sx is equal to 0. I don't know why. My naming convention is, my naming creativity is really bad. And what we're going to do is we're going to check, we're going to make this lesser than item.width, because we want to check this, sorry, I just lost my words. We want to go through the whole array of items to check if they're not occupied, because we just don't want to check if that X and Y is not occupied, but we want to know, we need to make sure that all of these are not occupied. For example, in chest, you're going to use 2v2. So we need to make sure that these 4 cells are not occupied, if that makes any sense. And we're going to, so basically we are looping through all the cells to check all the relevant cells. It does not make any sense. It will make sense as always. I say that way too many times. Okay, so now we're gonna traverse through each width. So we're gonna traverse, it's gonna go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and if it is our chest. So we're gonna go over there and we're gonna check if slots so if it is occupied, we're gonna have a boolean over here saying bool, just coming from Java, occupied. Now the reason we're having another variable over here is we're gonna first make it false by default, And we're gonna say if even one of the slots are occupied, we're gonna say occupied is equal to true, and we're gonna break. I'm gonna say sx is equal to ridiculous number, so it breaks out from the other loop too. So it basically breaks out from both the loops. So that now once it's occupied, we're not gonna place it because it's not legal. You can't have two items on the same slot. So, and if it is not occupied, actually can just say return, and that'll just come out of the loop. Or if it is as successfully, if there is literally, this means, and if there is nothing occupied, it's never going to go through the statement, and that means that it is safe to place the item. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place the item. We're going to say, I'm going to go over here because it's the list of items. We're going to say items.add, and we're going to add the item. So that is a simple, that hasn't got hard yet. So see, it's not very complicated. It's a little bit, but yeah. So now that we have added the items, now we need to draw the items. So that is where it gets a little bit more confusing. So first, we should actually check if this works or not. Debug.log. So to check, we're just gonna go over to start. Set slot. 1 second. Yeah, we're gonna go over here and we're gonna say add item. And now the way we're gonna add item is we're gonna go to items and get the armor. So we're gonna get the first element in the armor over here, as you can see, element 0. So you're gonna say add item items dot armor, and we're gonna get the 0th element, which is over here, element 0, and we're gonna get the chest, and we're gonna see if it comes over here, and we're gonna add it again. Oh, we need also we're gonna place it at 0, 0, and then we're gonna add it again, but this time we're gonna add it at 1, 1. But this time what it should happen is it should not go over here, but it should go over here. Debug.log breaks. And we're just going to put in the coordinates to make sure it is the right one. X, Y. And hopefully this works. I'm not giving any guarantee whatsoever. Already an error, which is kind of sad. 0, 0 item. Okay, no, never mind. So it is actually able to add, it says comes 1, 1. So it is actually not breaking, it does not go over here. Of course. That's because when we add an item, we need to set all those slots to occupied, because we never set this to occupied is equal to true. So yeah, so what we're going to do is after we add an item, we're going to have another for loop. I'm just going to copy the for loop from here. We're going to go over here, and we're going to say occupied is equal to true. 1 second. And we're not going to return. We're going to say slot.occupied is equal to true. And I'm just going to check if this makes sense. And of course it doesn't, because we need to put in, I'll tell you why in a second. Okay, so there we go. So what it's doing is it's first setting sx to x, and it's going to check if it is lesser than item.width plus x. So what it's going to do is it's going to start looping from the slot we are adding the item to. It's going to loop through all those slots. So for example, if you're adding it over here, or to this one, it's going to loop through all these 4 slots and set it's occupied to true. So yeah. That's the simplest explanation I could give, to be honest. I'm sorry if that is not good enough. And hopefully, I really hope this works. It still doesn't work. I'll just be back, guys. I'll just fix this problem and be back. Okay, so I really feel stupid, and you guys probably noticed by now that I'm really stupid. So first of all, we need to take out this if statement over here, because we have to. So what we're doing basically over here is, and also we need to. This was x and y before, and you need to change it to sx and sy. So that is how stupid I am. So basically, I'll explain this method. So basically, we are having a boolean occupied false. We're looping through, and we're checking if every cell that the item is going to occupy is not occupied. And if it is occupied, we're going to say this occupied, this boolean occupied is equal to true. Or actually, we don't need this. We're just, if there is anything that is, if any of those cells are occupied, we're going to return. So basically, we're not going to do anything, and we're going to quit the method. That is what return does. And then we're going to, and then we just debug some debugs over here to check if it works. Then we're going to add the item, and then what we're going to do is we're going to loop through every slot that the item takes, and we're going to set the occupied to true. So now if you run it, if you see first we add the item at 0, 0, and then at 1, 1. So basically what should happen is it should go first, and because it is empty, it should come over here and say comes 0, 0, and it should set everything to occupied. But the second one, when you say 1, 1, when you add it to 1, 1, it should go over here and it should come over here, because 1, 1 is actually occupied by the previous item, and it should say breaks 1, 1 because it is already occupied. So we're going to go here and we're going to play it. And as you can see, it comes at 0, 0, it adds the item, and then it breaks. The second time we add the item, it actually doesn't add the item, and it breaks. Now we don't actually draw the items, which are going to come to now. But unfortunately, we're actually running out of time. So I will have to stop the tutorial over here. But we've actually come really far, because we actually add items. The only difference is we actually don't show it. So it's really simple. You just make a for loop somewhere and just draw all the items, which is very simple. So guys, if you liked my tutorial, thumbs it up, like it, share. It really helps me. And guys, thank you for the comments you're posting on, and it's really flattering. And also about I've heard that I've been reading the comments, and a lot of people are facing a lot of bugs. I can't really help in specific to for each one of your problems, because I haven't seen your code, and it's really hard to find out a problem just by your description. So I will try my best. I'm trying my best to answer all of your questions. And yes, I will also upload the picture that I used for making the checking if the slots are right. This image over here to check if yeah, you get it. Okay. And by the way, guys, I wanted to tell you that I'm actually now working under a company called Omerta, and the game will be released. The game which I'm making is going to be released under Omerta. So we're a group of a couple of people now, 4 or 5, and we're gonna release. They're also releasing a mobile game. I'll give you a picture of a logo of the company now, just for branding, so you guys know how I'm going to release the actual game. And soon I'll be coming up with the updates of the actual game too. So guys, keep it up and stay tuned, and bye bye guys.